You know what time it is, I presume.
Feature presentation time.
That's right. Here we go.
Nice. That's perfect. That was great.
Yeehaw. There we go again. Welcome to our YouTube audience. Ashley has had 15 minutes to perfect her Southern accent. So, what do we do here on this darn podcast?
Rootin' tootin'. I don't know. We watch shows and movies and decide if we want more of them.
There we go. Welcome to our YouTube viewers. They're going to appreciate your wardrobe.
Howdy, y'all.
You're more like the black hat in Westworld.
Oh, yeah.
Billy Bob's Landman character, but that's okay.
That is true. But I did learn from the show and from my husband that this is the winter cowboy hat, and in the summer they wear straw hats. That's why that whole discussion on it. In Landman, which is what we watched.
Billy Bob is perpetually living in summer, though. He says if it's 85 degrees, and then it's Easter or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we watched the latest of a million Taylor Sheridan shows, the most prolific writer on TV. And what's the burning question that we're going to answer, Ashley?
The burning question is there any more land left in the world?
What kind of question is that? You've really outdone yourself once again. How about has Paramount Plus struck oil with Landman?
Oh, I'd like mine better. Is there any land left?
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, like, is all land accounted for?
Like, can you still buy oil rights to land?
Yeah, is land just, is there any left?
I mean, are men left in the world?
No.
There we go. No mans, no lands.
No man, no land.
Here we go.
Land man.
Every oil company has a version of Tommy. You cannot function without one.
I wouldn't want to have your job this week.
You wouldn't want to have my job any week.
The oil business
Affects everything in a town like this. Can we come inside?
Your children are going to inherit an oil fortune, but your grandchildren won't.
Ooh.
Got a little taste there of the crazy cast for this show.
Demi Moore didn't make an appearance, but she does. A lot of people make an appearance. I was like, well, Demi Moore didn't in the trailer.
Yeah, I don't know where to start here. I wanted to kind of just quickly check in if you have watched any of the other big Taylor Sheridan shows. I feel like you've mentioned 1883. Yellowstone is, of course, one of the most popular shows on TV. Lioness, Mayor of Kingstown, Tulsa King.
It's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, and he writes a large majority of the episodes, directs them, uses his own property to film them on.
Wow, that's impressive. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, when we looked at the poster last week and it was that really cheesy, like, glamour shot? It's actually a picture. It wasn't anybody from the show. It was Taylor Sheridan, the TV mogul. Some photo shoot that he's done, and they've been using this promo photo a lot. But yeah, that's Taylor Sheridan. He's a
stud.
Yeah, he's handsome. He looks the part. He was an actor, and then a writer and director. Has made movies like Sicario and Wind River, Hell or High Water.
I watched Wind River. I don't know if I watched Sicario. I've watched a little of Yellowstone, almost finished 1883, but I still have one episode left from like 2 years ago.
So other than the movies, I think that means you've seen more of his stuff than me. 1883, though, you've been really into.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I only watched. I don't know if there's even more than one season. I watched the first season, did not watch the finale, so I wouldn't say really into, but I did like it for a chunk of time. It's very well done, incredible acting, and yeah, I didn't know he did all these shows. That makes more sense. They're all very similar.
I think this show has like a pretty distinct tone and feel. It's probably consistent with his other stuff, but some of the way that the like dialogue overlaps action and just like it's the naturalistic, like some of the long like interactions between characters when they're just like hanging out and stuff. It does make you feel more kind of like connected to the characters and just kind of immersed in the world. I was talking about this a little bit last week with my old ass, like when you're just like hanging out with the Gen Z kids, you feel like you're getting a real window into their world. And this is a much more heightened, stressful, action-packed world, but similar. Like, I really want to talk about his interactions with his daughter, but we'll get to that. First off, I mean, it was disturbing, not really for the right reasons. What did you think of this show just right off the bat?
I really like I don't know a lot about oil country in West Texas. So for me, it almost felt like part show, part documentary, because I was just like learning all that stuff. And I don't know how true a lot of it is, but even like the land rights. And I know like, even though you own the land, you don't own the rights to like the minerals. And that's true, the oil, which is crazy to me. Because my husband's family they have oil tankers on their land, but it's not like they don't get much money from that. It goes to like the oil companies. But anyway, it was just cool seeing a different side of Texas. I've never been to like West Texas, and my husband's best friend actually grew up in Odessa, so he's really familiar with like that area.
Yeah, a little shade thrown at Odessa compared to Midland.
Yeah, not as fancy.
Yeah, they're like, maybe don't drive that Mercedes in Odessa, but you can drive it in Midland. It won't stick out at all.
Right.
Yeah, so this show reminded me of a lot of things, but the kind of the Texas culture certainly reminded me of Friday Night Lights. You know, there's some football in the first episode of LANDMAN, and just kind of like hanging out at the Patch, the bar cafe place, just kind of this Texas culture. The funny thing though is Friday Night Lights was all about this really kind of heartwarming family story at the center, moral family story at the center of it. Like, he's trying to do things the right way, and he's coming into, you know, a town with maybe the wrong priorities in terms of football over kids' well-being and everything else. And
Billy Bob's doing the same thing. Perfect family.
Well, he has he's a man with a code, like we often see in anti-hero shows like this. He's a realist. He's practical. He's like, you know, good at doing the more less glamorous sides of managing these oil relationships. But, you know, quickly this show just turns tragic. It turns like into all these goes into all these extreme directions. And I wonder, like, will you have any trouble like continuing to spend time with these type of characters? Like, do you want to spend time with Billy Bob Thornton?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
He's an incredible actor. I mean, I just think this role was made for him, and he's perfect. So yes, I want to spend more time with him, and with the other people too, like his family. We'll talk about his daughter later, I guess. But even like the Ally Lauder character is interesting. His wife and like their relationships is strange, and his son, who, you know, well, I don't know what happens in the first episode, so I don't want to talk about the second episode if you haven't seen it.
You don't know what happens in the first episode?
Well, I don't know when it ends and the second one begins,
okay.
So I don't want to like talk about the next one if you...
Well, okay, well, we'll just get it out of the way. I watched both episodes.
Oh, perfect. Nice.
Yeah.
So we want more.
Let's talk about the opening of the first episode real quick, and then the ending, because what did you think of like the opening scene where he's like in a hostage situation?
It was crazy and intense, but he kept his cool the entire time, and I was like, man, this guy is really like knows his shit, like quoting off all this, all of the stuff. But then as soon as he gets to his car, he's like obviously super rattled and has like a shot of whiskey or something and smokes a cigarette.
Yeah, he's basically negotiating with the cartel.
Yeah.
And
really well. Negotiating very well.
Yeah. I mean, he lays it out for them. Like, basically, there's the only people more powerful than the cartel or than, you know, the Secret Service or any kind of like government agency is private oil hitmen or whatever. Like if they fuck with the oil business, they'll
send drones to their houses and kill their whole families.
Kill their families. So he walks this line, obviously, of not just like trying to piss off the wrong people, but this is a very a perfect window in just to kind of into his worldview. He's like, I know that this is a fucked up industry. I know that we have to kind of deal with a lot of different types of personalities and people and pay off the people that we need to pay off. And we don't even have to pay them off because people way more important, like politicians, are already doing that for us. And it's just like the interest of the oil industry will win every time.
Yeah.
And so he's a cog at one level in the machine, and John Hamm, his character, is a cog that's even higher up. And then, there'll be like probably off-screen people that are higher up in the government that are, pulling even more strings. So all of that is fascinating, but I thought it was a really exciting introduction to the Billy Bob Thornton character.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And he was, that was the only time you saw in the episode that he was actually like mentally like a little rattled.
Yeah.
When he cuts off his finger, he could care less. I was like,
yeah,
you're wild.
Yeah.
Isaac brought that up, like the juxtaposition between the two. I was like, yeah, that's,
He keeps his cool, but yeah, like he's definitely needs to decompress after that interaction, and then he needs to decompress after his friends and, his son on his first day on the job it's not really his fault, but he's a contributing factor to this three Mexican, this whole family of oil workers that get blown up in a explosion. So
yeah, that was so nerve wracking because I was like, stop hitting it, it's gonna spark, and then yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, so episode 1 opens with that hostage or that negotiation scene. I say hostage just because he has like a bag over his head.
Yeah.
Before he takes it off, and we see the picture that we were just looking at, and then it ends with an explosion that kills 3 people, and
all related.
Yeah, and it's the reason I had to go immediately into episode 2 is just because that felt pretty manipulative to introduce these characters through by way of his son, more or less, and they like take him under their wing. They're like hazing him, but then they're
so sweet to him.
Yeah, they invite him over for dinner, and they're teaching him Spanish. So Michael Pena is like teaching him Spanish and feeding him really hot tacos, and they're bonding just so that the next morning they can get blown up. Is pretty. I don't know. How did you feel about us? Them getting us invested in those characters just so they could fry them.
It made me feel kind of betrayed and really sad.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I really like these. Like this crew's great. Like they'll be around at least for most of the season because they're like best, like really good friends with Billy Bob Thornton's character too, or like they've known each other for years. But
yeah,
Game of Thrones in the West.
Yeah, I mean, there's already like a scene halfway through the episode where a plane is making a drug deal with a car, and a tanker like drives straight into it and explodes. Like, there's all this shit that's just like completely going off the rails at all times. And John Hamm's like,
Well, I imagine that won't happen every episode. That was like the hook. I'm thinking, right?
I don't know. I mean, John Hamm's like, this is a crisis industry with occasional moments of prosperity or what, like, and yeah, it just seems like human tragedy is one component of it, but they're constantly going to be dealing with, like we weren't really supposed to feel bad for the drug dealers that got blown up in that crash, but his friends and the people that we've bonded with over the course of the first episode. I wanted to see if they how quickly they moved on, or how they handled that in episode 2. And I would say that they did a pretty good job of kind of making it the central emotional focus of at least the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, and you could tell he was really torn up. And I think the way they handled him going into the house and just like telling the families, but you don't see any of that, and you just hear them like screaming. I was like, that's pretty well done, because I didn't want to see the whole interaction of, that piece. Like, that was strong enough, I think, emotionally.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough position. I mean, we heard in the trailer, like, you don't want this job any day of the week.
Yeah.
And
every day's Monday or whatever you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you kind of think of Billy Bob's characters? Just kind of the toll that this takes on him from an emotional. Is it worth it?
I mean, now that his son's involved too, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I thought, because when we first started watching the show, you see that he's like living in this like beautiful, huge house, and like, yeah, he has like some guys there occasionally or whatever. We're like, oh, he owns his house, and then you find out he's like in $500,000 worth of debt, and he's an alcoholic, and all this stuff. And you're like, huh, I don't know.
Yeah, he does a good job of outlining if you're in a position in life, like, basically this is the new American dream. Anyone, regardless of like if they've been in jail, they can be attached to this industry that is just producing so much wealth and money. These felons who seem like good, hardworking people now, are able to make $180,000 a year and buy houses for their family. Unfortunately, the risk that comes with that is, unsafe work conditions.
Yeah, severe injury or death.
Yeah. And in the fact that it might dry up literally, and then everyone moves on, and you can try to keep chasing it, but you better have some backup plans in place. And I thought my favorite scene with Billy Bob Thornton was, or that just kind of captured where he was in his life's journey, was when he's talking to John Hamm, and he's had that horrible day, and he's venting to John Hamm and yelling at him for sending the wrong attorney. And John Hamm listens for a minute and then puts him in his place.
Yeah, he's like, don't forget I'm the boss here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, don't ever raise your voice at me again.
Yeah.
I'm the boss. I'll try to sort this out for you. Like, they have this mutual respect. John Hamm's not getting his hands dirty in the same way that Billy Bob's character is, but you have to know your place. And I
wonder how much his character makes in the show. Or like, if the guys on the field are making 180 and he's like controlling, he's got to be making a lot of money, a decent amount of money.
Yeah, and it's like the way that you get super rich, like John Hamm's character is owning stuff and making really risky investments, it sounds like. And so Billy Bob Thornton hasn't done that, or if he did, I think he has that conversation with his son about like how his son wants to be Monty, John Hamm's character.
But he wasn't born into money, or Billy Bob wasn't.
Yeah. And so I think Billy Bob made some probably bad investments, and that's why he's in debt. And John Hamm made the right investments for now, and also, climbed the ladder more easily because, one, of his silver spoon, and two, because he's John Hamm and he fits the part of CEO or whatever his job is.
Just switch him and Billy Bob Thornton's character. It'd be really weird.
Yeah. I mean, you can see that more from this press photo here, where I don't know what look Billy Bob is going for exactly. Where is this?
Oh. Huh.
He's wearing like a beanie and a hat.
And a hat.
Allie Larder, incredible.
Yeah.
In her just kind of attention-grabbing appearances over FaceTime, and Demi Moore mostly appearing in a pool.
Yeah.
What did you think of the lack, I would say, of development and kind of focus on the female characters? Was that weird, or do you think they'll get developed later on?
I think I feel like this is a more masculine, like manly show.
Yeah.
Like, it focuses on like,
it's got man in the name.
LANDMAN, yeah. And men in the oil industry, not really women so much. So I'm okay with them not having like huge roles. That's fine with me.
Yeah, it's
doesn't
like
bother
his Billy Bob's attitude towards his ex-wife is very dismissive, and kind of just, you can tell that he was infatuated, obviously, with her, and she still like toys with him, but the way her character is portrayed is just as a gold digger, or she's choosing to be with someone else that has a lot more zeros.
Another zero or two. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the daughter then.
Great.
So his 17-year-old daughter shows up on a private, or like on a private plane that he had coming into town for other people, and she's with her giant football playing boyfriend Dakota Loving.
Yeah, ridiculous.
We see like her skirt blowing up in the wind. She's highly sexualized. The whole reason she's visiting is so that they can try to limit the amount of sex she's having with her boyfriend while Allie Larder goes to Cabo or something.
And then he flies with her too.
Yeah, and then he comes. So that's just mostly comic relief, frankly. I don't know. I just want to focus on the conversation that her and Billy Bob have at the football game.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable.
He asks her frankly if they're having sex, and she says, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "Are you being careful?" And she says, "You want to take it from here?"
No, I don't want to talk about it. It's so uncomfortable. Like, I could never imagine like having this conversation with like our dad or like any type. It's so like ugh. She has one rule, and that's all I'll say.
Okay. Yeah.
And the one rule makes Billy Bob Thornton's character very uncomfortable, and he goes immediately to get a Dr. Pepper, and he's like stunned.
Well, I just think I love that the show went there. I mean, just the dialogue wise, I don't know if like all the her lubing herself up with Crisco is necessary, but and all the jokes about like, are these old men that live in the house with him going to be able to like
control themselves?
That's all gross. But the fact that the show, like, he asks her he's like, I know I'm going to regret it. I'm not going to say it, but he's like, I know I'm going to regret asking, but what is the rule? And that she tells him, and his reaction. I just think that the humor in the show is very necessary with some of the tragic, heavy elements that we've described. So I definitely, that was some of my favorite parts of the show, were just like those moments of levity.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It's just like so uncomfortable, but also funny at the same time. You're like, it's like a weird.
And she's this daddy's girl character type, our archetype that may or may not exist.
I'm sure it does exist, but
definitely
it's like so extreme.
Yeah, it definitely exists in movie and TV shows. And maybe there's some examples from our youth that I could think of, but
I can't think of any.
Not to this extreme. And yeah, so that scene was crazy. And then I think more importantly is whether we're supposed to care about, like, he gives her some hard advice about how if Dakota Loving isn't going to be her last relationship, then it's not going to work out, kind of a truism. Mm-hmm. But they basically break up the same day that they arrive, and he's able to comfort her a little bit. I don't know. Like, does it matter if we kind of are invested in these family, like the family dynamic and in these other characters in his life, that he's supposed to be, like, he's got to be have a good relationship with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important because it shows a softer side. So
yeah,
it's nice to see that, and I'm curious to see what happens with him and his son, because his son wants to follow in his footsteps so they can own his own oil company one day. But it's obviously super dangerous, so it's a weird, he's almost done with college, and he decides to not get his degree and go out to the oil field. So I think that's going to be interesting. And I hope his wife shows up.
Oh, she'll show up for sure.
In like the 4th episode.
Yeah, Allie Larder will make an appearance, not just on FaceTime, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not really connect or get attached. I mean, we'd spend more time with him and his daughter than him and his son. And the son serves the purpose of like, Billy Bob has succeeded in this very difficult, line of work, succeeded relative to, I don't know, like people that aren't at least adjacent to all this money and wealth, but he's not necessarily building anything from it. And so he would love his son to actually break out into a more reliable or less dangerous career, like selling computer chips is the thing that they can think of. That's what everyone that doesn't work
That's what
on
I
the
do.
land
Just
does.
kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't. What did you think of the performance or just the portrayal of the son character?
I think he was very, like, as I said, he was like really green.
Yeah.
Like super gullible, like naive. He's just young. And so like, I think he'll learn some hard lessons continually throughout the show, and then that'll make his character develop, and then towards the end you'll really like him. But right now it's just kind of like he's there,
Yeah, and I mean, like we had Percy Hines White
Oh
the
yeah.
discussion about this kind of unusual looking actor, unconventionally attractive, unconventionally kind of charismatic. I didn't get any of that from this actor.
Yeah.
I just wasn't drawn to his personality or his story. I get the purpose that it serves in relation to Billy Bob, but on its own, spending time with him as he jumps to another crew, I'm not that excited about.
No, and maybe we won't spend that much time with him. Who knows? Guess we'll have to watch the next episode.
Yeah, perhaps. We'll get there. I was there anything else about the kind of, I don't know, world building, or like you said, you liked the information that you were learning, but anything else that jumped out at you?
And maybe we want to go back to Texas.
Yeah. Did you like all the beige? It's like a beautiful show, but it's also like very
Khaki.
beige. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's West Texas, I think.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily where I would be going back. So.
We talked about the finger thing, but I definitely thought that they showed with the finger way too much.
They showed it so much. I mean, good job on makeup and effects, because it looked disgusting. It's just dangling.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently it's not very easy to hit a wrench with a hammer repeatedly.
Well, now with a burning fire behind you, you're probably like dying of heat. I thought you were
I'm
being
not saying it
sarcastic.
should be easy. I'm just, and the valves were all rusted over, which is what caused the explosion in the first place. And then nobody closed like the other emergency shutoff valve or whatever. I liked that we got to see Billy Bob kind of spring into action.
And then destroy himself.
Yeah, and then immediately fuck up. But obviously he worked all these jobs that his son is, attempting to understand and work as he moves his way up the chain.
Yep. I'm excited.
Okay, well, sounds like this is going to be an easy question to answer, but for the first time in weeks, we have something that we can watch more
It's not
of.
a movie.
Do you want more of LANDMAN?
Absolutely not. Yeah, of course I do. I'm excited. And do you know if it's releasing excuse me, I burped. Dr. Pepper. Whoop.
That'll get
Not
you.
a sponsor. Do you think it's releasing every Sunday, 2 episodes, or just 1? Do you know the schedule?
I'm gonna guess 1. This seemed like probably a special 2-episode premiere, and the reason I ended up watching 2, or I wasn't even sure how this was being released. I watched episode 1 after all the football on Sunday, but I forgot that it was on, and I was on cable. So I switched over to CMT This comes out on like Paramount has their own network. Yada yada. I don't know how all of it works, but they were showing it like on other channels. So I jumped in like halfway through the episode the first time.
Did you get commercials?
And I had commercials, and I watched the first or the last 30 minutes, and then I watched all of it again the next day. So that was interesting. Because like the tone of the show when his daughter shows up versus when he is being, when he's negotiating with the cartel are just two different shows.
Oh, completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like,
what's going
on? Much more prepared for the domestic, drama stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh no, this is also like a pretty hardcore.
What a weird way to watch it.
Yeah. But then I realized, oh yeah, I have Paramount Plus.
You don't need to.
So I finally figured out how to sign in and saw that both episodes had been watched. So
question.
Yeah.
So Isaac and I were discussing this. When it has like the blackout between like the cuts between the different scenes, but it intentionally is like kind of black for a longer period of time than usual. Is that because there's supposed to be commercials there and there aren't, or is that intentional because that's just how they want the show to like cut between scenes?
No, this is an old school show that like still gets a lot of viewership, like Yellowstone, or I mean, well, they hope they're writing it for commercials, so they build those breaks in. It's not like Netflix or something trying to like put ad breaks into a show. They build it in, and I would say the only advantage of the commercials, aside from being able to check your fantasy football team, is some of the transitions are really stark from like something really hardcore happening to country music and like fun times at the patch. So it felt a little like
buffer.
Yeah, I felt a little awkward or uncomfortable with some of the transitions once I wasn't watching it with commercials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, that's what that is. I don't think those are meant just to be like a moment to breathe or to,
because they just seem like longer than a usual one that would, I don't know. It just it's not distracting, but it's noticeable.
Maybe they could make them shorter if they're not going to have the commercial. So maybe they left it, a couple seconds longer for the reason that I was just describing, so that the transition doesn't seem quite as abrupt. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there were probably like 4 or 5 commercials throughout the episode that I watched. Yeah.
And they're hour-long episodes, so you know what that means. I'm not watching an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm 90% sure I'm gonna watch more.
90?
Yeah.
That's pretty strong. I guess that's very strong.
Well, it's just like I like everything that we've discussed. I don't know if the show is going to be that, I don't know, morally interesting or thematically interesting. It's like Billy Bob's character will be, is very compelling to watch. Yeah. And I do want to learn more about the dynamics between him and John Hamm. And I guess the thing that I'm most worried about is that I don't care about his family dynamics. And compared to Friday Night Lights or something like that, that's what really gets you invested in a show long term, or gets me invested in a show long term, typically. So I'm wondering if there's going to be any relationships that I care about. Like him and John Hamm, that doesn't really count. That's like a boss, and they've had some phone conversations so far. Like, we're supposed to care about him and his daughter. We're supposed to care about him and his son. Maybe him and Allie Larder when she shows back up. But it might not be mandatory to watch the show, but I think that would ensure that I want to keep going.
Yeah, a landman makes less than a guy on the scene. But Billy Bob probably makes, obviously he's like head of whatever. He probably makes a ton of money, or potentially. But it says the average. I looked at it specifically for Odessa, Texas, because I was curious. They only make $104,000.
Yeah, I think the way that you can quickly accumulate money, I guess, is maybe company housing. So his fancy house isn't his house.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
A rental that John Hamm is paying for. And
company truck.
Yeah,
company gas. Lunches are expensive. He doesn't really have expenses.
Yeah. So that would be, 100K would, but that's not very impressive considering the amount of money that he's like talking about being pumped out of there every day, and the amount of money going to the field workers and things like that.
And this is just like a random. I mean, he's probably but who knows? Who knows?
All right. Well, are you ready for what's coming out soon?
Murder Thanksgiving.
Coming soon to home video.
Okay, so one of the options does have a murder in it.
Thanksgiving, too.
I didn't get the poster up for this one, but I actually watched the first episode of Say Nothing, the Hulu show.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did start it. It's not like we have to do this for the podcast type first episode for me. So that one's still on the table.
Okay.
Another one that may or may not have murder in it is this, if you want to describe.
Oh. Rivals. Okay.
Doesn't really give you much to go on.
Well, it kind of looks like Clue mixed with Succession.
Yeah, that seems fair. It's set in 1986 in the world of independent television, and it's a British show maybe, and so like David Tennant is in it. One of the Doctor Who's. I think he's in the front of this scene here, but the trailer looked fun, but we also this one's not really that murdery, but it is coming out this week.
Oh no!
This is the
I can't.
No, okay.
No.
So no Chad Michael Murray as a
Santa Claus?
No, as a male stripper.
Oh, okay, maybe.
As part of a group of male strippers called the Merry Gentlemen.
Oh, probably not.
Okay.
But I might watch it on my own. I'll let you know.
So I don't know. Maybe just think about it. Pick from. We've got 3 options to pick from.
Okay.
And we can leave the audience hanging as far as what we're going to watch.
Perfect.
But that's it for this week of New Release. Subscribe on YouTube by searching New Release Radio. Subscribe on Apple or Spotify by just searching New Release. Ashley?
What about gift shop?
Oh, well, we have to do that during the main discussion.
Too late now. Everyone's getting branded hats.
Yeah. No, this was a perfect one. We can do gift shop.
Yeah. So each week when we watch a show or a movie, we sell something from it in our gift shop. And I think we should do branded cowboy hats. Or brands. New Release brands. We can brand people.
Well, I definitely prefer that one. You can like a do-it-yourself DIY branding kit. So you can throw it on an open fire. You can put it in the microwave.
Yeah, definitely put it in the microwave.
Yeah. Well, we're just trying to make branding easier.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Well, it has nothing to do. I mean, do they brand any cattle or anything in this show?
No, but just Texas.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
or maybe removable pinkies as like a joke, like a lizard when a lizard's tail grows back. It'll be like a fake pinky that falls off. No, I want to stay with the branding.
Yeah, let's go with branding. If you have already subscribed, then the next logical step is branding yourself on your butt, on your back, on
it's
your
the new tattoo.
Yeah, shoulder. Trying to probably put it somewhere that's not too prominent all the time. So yeah, yeah, forehead branding. We're not asking you to do that. That's too far. But
if you want to,
a New Release butt brand.
Sure.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for listening, Ashley.
That's a yeehaw.